So have you ever been told that getting the club across the line is a bad thing? So what you've then done is you've spent a ton of time trying to fix that across the line position and try to get it more down the line. So then let me pose a question to you. Why can the likes of Matthew Wolff play on tour with an across the line position? And why can the likes of Justin Rose play on tour with a down the line position? Well, in this video, we're not necessarily going to bag either way of swinging the golf club. What we're going to do is find out the pros and cons of both swing styles to find out exactly what can suit you the best. Now, before we dive into what swing style is going to work best for you, we need to find out what on earth do these swing styles even mean. So an across the line position, for those of you who aren't sure what that is when the golf club points a little bit more to the right at the top of the golf swing. And a down the line position is one where the golf club sits a little bit more essentially down the line, just like an Adam Scott or a Justin Rose. Now, which one is more beneficial? What do we need to change in order to get into one of those two positions? So let's start off with an across the line position first. Now, how do we get there? Well, if we look at the top of the backswing when we are across the line, we notice a couple of things here. We notice obviously, number one, the club's pointing more out that way to the right. We notice that perhaps the lead wrist is in extension. We also notice that the trail arm is in a lot of internal rotation, and these two things are going to get that club across the line. Now, the benefits of being in this across the line position can be that it's easier to shallow the golf club. Now, you might be thinking, Ryan, how's it easier to shallow from there? Well, when the trail arm is in more internal rotation at the top of the swing, makes it extremely easy to externally rotate that trail arm. So what ends up happening to the golf club is, again, we get to that cross the line position at the top, super internal, and then ultimately we can just externally rotate that trail arm, and you'll see what that does to the golf club. So as I do that, the grip gets pushed out this way and the golf club falls behind me, which a lot of players want to do. And it's pretty hard to time up, in all honesty. I can't personally time it up very well, but when I get to the top, across the line, and I try and externally rotate that trail arm, I then need to rotate into the ball. Let's see if I can hit this half decent. So there you go, there's a top shot. So for me, it's very, very difficult to time this up. So it might be a pro, it might be a con. Oh, that was gold. Let's give that another go. My God. Okay, try it again. Third time's the charm, surely. One more attempt. This is obviously a con for me. There we go, but it felt like a massive block. So you can see there that even though I got it across the line at the top, I tried to shallow it, but I can't personally time it up. So let's get to the cons of being across the line. So the first con that I would say about being across the line for the majority of golfers, exactly what you just saw. It's super hard to time up. I must admit, it is super difficult to time up. So that is a con. You've got... Just mowing their lawns during my video. If you can manage timing up the swing, by all means, it's a great style to shallow that golf club. But the other con that I find from coaching a lot of recreational golfers is when they get that club across the line, they don't actually shallow the club, unfortunately. So what ends up happening is that golfer gets across the line, they don't externally rotate that trail arm, instead they just rotate. Now, unfortunately, because that golf club's over in this direction, the center of mass is over here, the moment I start to rotate, unfortunately, I get that club super steep. Now we are in no man's land. So from here, I'm going to have to early extend to try and get that golf club coming from the inside. Now, unfortunately from here, if you watch my previous video, what ends up happening is that. We end up hitting it way out to the right, smashing down fences, hitting other people's buggies, etc. So what's my conclusion for the amateur golfer or for the recreational golfer using an across the line position? There's a reason why a lot of us coaches will actually move you away from that position. It is extremely hard to time and you've got to get it just right, which is why I think we should leave it for the pros. So what's the alternative to being across the line? If you're someone who's across the line at the top of the golf swing, what should you do? Well, let me talk to you about the pros and cons first, and then I'm going to show you a drill. If you are across the line, on how to get a little bit more down the line to make things so much easier for yourself. So I guess the first pro to being down the line, a little bit more traditional, let's call it, is the golf club's just lined up so much easier in that backswing. We don't have to time it as much as the across the line position. So we get to the top of the golf swing, we're nicely down the line, we're in a really good spot. A lot of the best players in the world are in this spot. And ultimately from here, it's super easy just to rotate the body, get the arms to come back down towards the golf ball, and you'll see this golf club just shallow out nicely. The trail arm gets in front of my rib cage a lot easier. So when I get to the top, I'm aiming to get that right arm, that trail arm back down in front of my rib cage. Then from there, I can just turn, fire the golf club out towards the target. And it makes hitting the golf ball, in my opinion, just a little bit easier. Oh my God, it's so hot out here. The other pro that I like with getting that golf club down the line is it structures our arms that much better. You can see there's not as much cupping of the lead wrist. There's not as much internal rotation of the trail arm. So we end up just getting this nice looking, structured arm position at the top of the golf swing. And as long as we maintain that on the way down, we can hit that ball pretty solid. Hit that a little bit fat, but that was more of a pause swing. But you can see even in that swing, it was super easy to get that golf club to come down. I didn't need to manipulate it behind me. I didn't have to try and rotate excessively. So in my opinion, that's a massive pro or a plus to getting that golf club more down the line. Now, what about the cons for getting that golf club down the line? There are none, not really. The only con that I could think about is if someone's really trying to get that golf club down the line is when they move that trail arm and they're really trying to externally rotate that trail arm to get that club to the top of the golf swing down the line. What could end up happening is you actually do that too much. And this is what happens if you do it too much. So if I'm practicing getting that golf club down the line and I externally rotate that way too much, well, now we get into this position at the top where the club's super laid off. Now that's also an issue. Now the reason being is because when this trail arm is in a lot of external rotation on the way up, we've got no more external rotation to happen. So essentially what ends up happening is if I try, that golf club gets super stuck behind me. And again, I end up with that shot that goes out to the right. Or what I end up doing is from this position, my trail arm can only go in one direction, and that is internally. So what happens is you end up steepening that golf club. And from here, we either hit it left or we end up getting to that golf club, steepening the club there, and then we come back up and out of it. And again, I think I've hit my fence enough times today. So when working on getting that golf club more down the line at the top, be careful not to externally rotate that trail arm as much. Now, how do I get into that position? If I'm someone who's across the line, I've tried everything. Ryan, how do I get my golf club down the line? What are some drills? What are some training aids that I can use in order to get me there? Well, I've got 3 for you. The first training aid I would recommend is a towel. Now I've got my beautiful PXG towel that I'm using. And what I would want to do with this towel is basically just chuck it under my armpits. So I'm going to chuck one under there, make sure the towel's long enough that you can do this with. And essentially, the moment I get this golf club moving across the line, look what happens. I get that trail arm internally rotated. What ends up happening is the towel comes out of my trail armpit. So we're just going to place this back under here again. And I want you to basically just make sure the towel stays under your armpits at all times. Now, it will feel a little bit restrictive for sure, but this is the exact thing you need to do in order to try and change that across the line position. So we're going to just make sure we're turning the body, loading that golf club up, and it will feel very restrictive under the left armpit, I must admit, because what we should be doing in the golf swing, we can actually separate that left armpit a little bit, okay? As long as this one stays in though. So what we're going to do is just hit a golf shot with a towel under my armpits. And again, what you'll notice there is you didn't see my club get across the line, otherwise the towel would have dropped. Does feel a little bit restrictive, but that brings me to the next training aid that I want you to try, which will be less restrictive. That's right, a glove. That's all I want you to get. your normal glove. And what you're going to do from here is just going to put it under that trail armpit again. Now, instead of the towel, we're now less restrictive with our left arm. So we can actually get a little bit of separation with that lead arm now. So when I make a couple of practice swings, again, I want that glove staying in the trail armpit there. But again, because the towel's not in there, I've got a little bit more space between my left armpit and my chest. So as long as that as long as the glove doesn't fall out of my trail armpit, I'm good to go. So again, across the line, that glove you're gonna find falls down. So once that glove is under the trail arm, again, a couple of little practice swings, feeling like we're keeping that connection between right armpit and right pec. And we're going to hit a couple of shots that way. Now again, you'll see that that golf club never got across the line. So again, a really helpful training aid, very inexpensive. Grab a glove, chuck it under the trail armpit. Now, the last training aid I want you to do. Tour striker ball. So a tour striker ball works extremely well for someone who gets the club across the line. Again, very similar to the towel and the glove. If this tour striker ball is in between my forearms and I get this golf club moving across the line, again, through internal rotation of my trail arm, again, it's just going to come out. So what I want you to do, put that tour striker ball between your forearms, a couple of practice swings, and don't let it fall. So there you have it. A little bit of a deep dive into, should you be across the line? Should you be more down the line? I don't know. It depends on your swing style and what you can suit best. But as you saw there, I think down the line's a little bit easier to manage for most recreational golfers. So while we're on the topic of what most tour players do, I want you to watch the video that's on the screen right now, because 99% of tour players swing like this. You're gonna need to find out why by clicking this video.